Good evening, everybody. This is Casper from the Tropical Weather Threat Society, bringing you our nightly update. We've had a couple changes here in the Atlantic today. We have our highlighted area of interest out here into the open waters of the main development region is now been tagged Invest 95L. Currently, it has a 50% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 70% chance of development over the next 7 days. We do have our other little spot out here. It's a 0-0. We are not going to waste too much time on that. Disorganized area of shower and thunderstorm activity. Real quick look at satellite. As you can see, nothing organized here in the Gulf. Beginning to move onshore, streaming some desperately needed shower and thunderstorm activity across some of the regions here in the southeast, and we need it. I was hoping that we'd get a little bit of rain, but the jury's out on that. We're still playing rain lottery, and we have not won yet. So let's jump in real quick over here to Earthnall. Now, what I'm going to highlight here is Invest 95L. As you can see here, located right here at this broad area of rotation. If we bring this up approximately 1 mile above the ocean surface, we don't see much. Now, as you can see, we'll come back down. Oh, well, I don't know what happened here. Our area of interest is right here. I guess everything just updated on me. So that's always fun. I've been looking at old information prior to the live. Yay me. All right, let me run through this and take a look. Yeah, it's not a lot yet. But the one thing that I want to show here, everybody. So we're going to zoom out just a little bit. And we are at the 700 millibar level. This is approximately 10,000 feet above sea level. So we have our 95L is located right here. Well, if you look just to the north of it, you have this large high pressure ridge over the north of it. Now, this high pressure ridge is going to continue moving off to the west in relation with 95L. Now, this is what has our track and going like this. We don't see any turn until we get potentially after 50. So that's something that we're going to watch here as we get into the models. Is it looks like our first opportunity for a northern turn comes right here, right there, in and around 50 degrees west. So this is where the bubble, instead of it continuing out like this is where we get this little bit of extension. So now that we kind of have an idea of what everything looks like, let's jump into the models and take a look. Well, if we take a look at the spaghetti plots here, we do have some significant concern. And the biggest part of the concern will start right here. So these four models, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have halves, A and B, right here. That's the H-mon, that's the H-wharf. All of these values, all these numbers that you see right here are knots. Every single one of them bring this to a major hurricane. Now, we do have TC coamps that does not develop it. So that's the only one that really doesn't get it going. But the overall guidance as of this point, we do not have a bona fide center of circulation developing yet. But the overall guidance wants to potentially bring this north of the islands and turn it prior to getting there. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody is safe out here. You've got the H-mon, you've got one of the halves, and you also have the UK Met. that bring it potentially right into the island chain and getting into parts of the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. So it is highly recommended to monitor this Invest 95L very closely if you live out here into the Windwards, Leewards, Virgin Islands, and or Puerto Rico. Please keep a very, very close watch on the progression of Invest 95L. If we look at the ensemble models, here we have the Euro. We're taking this out 7 days. As you can see, there are some that definitely turn it prior to the islands, but then there are a couple that bring it right into the islands, and a couple of them potentially rather intense. So it is highly recommended that the folks down here in the islands really, really keep a close watch on this. Now, as you can also see, getting through day 7 here on the Euro, we've got this large area of development potential here. This is from a stalled out frontal boundary. This would likely not be tropical, but it could be more of a nor'easter type system, maybe a little bit of subtropical characteristic, but regardless, it's going to be a low pressure, whether it be tropical in nature or not. And we are looking at definitely something beginning to develop along that stalled out frontal boundary off the southeast coast here into the open waters of the Western Atlantic. As I run this forward and get this out to 10 days, we will note that we do have and continue to have a little bit of a signal here. But there's also a draped frontal boundary in this region. So this could very well be non-tropical in nature. Could be a low pressure center. Would you expect it to become tropical down here in the Western Caribbean? Absolutely. But with all that shear that's going to be present from that stalled out frontal boundary, it's going to make things extraordinarily difficult for a tropical cyclone to consolidate and organize. Now, if we compare that with what we have with the GEFS. Now, the GEFS has a completely different solution here. Yes, there are a few of the guidance members that want to turn this prior to reaching the islands. But the overall guidance, the highest probability lies within this camp right there. This area right there is where the majority of your ensemble members are running. We have a small camp running down here to the south of that, and then we have obviously our early turn and recurve there. But the majority of our ensemble members sits right here. So again, folks in the islands, please keep a very close watch on this particular system. It looks like it's going to be the last one. And we hope that it doesn't hit anybody. We hope that this turns prior, but please keep a watch on this. It still has the opportunity. Now, again, day 7, we will run this out towards day 10. As you can see, we do, with the GEFS, have a couple ensemble members down here, not a lot. And then we also have our area associated with this. And then once this turns to the north, we get a question. Does it turn back to the northeast? Or in some of these models, it may turn back to the northwest. Too early to tell. We don't even have anything developed down here. So, and we're obviously 10 days out. I promise that's going to change. I promise. So it's too early to make any determinations right now. The biggest focus for that area right now is going to be down here into the islands and folks here into the Lesser Antilles and parts of the Greater Antilles as well. comparing our legacy models with our new AI models. Now, this is the Euro AI. We've got this out 7 days. Again, similar thinking, a large area of developmental potential out here associated with the frontal boundary. We have this area here pulling up and maybe turning prior to the islands, although there are a couple that still bring it into the islands. The overall guidance track and probability track for our AI models are certain to turn prior to the islands. But again, that's going to change. And the reason that I believe that that's going to change lies here with the DeepMind. So yesterday, if we were to look at DeepMind was very similar to what we had with the Euro AI. Well, I'm going to run this out 72 hours. By this time, I get at least a decent signal. And if we look here, today and this afternoon, I've got to zoom in rather close, we have a few members. Now, keep in mind that the majority of the guidance still favors a turn prior to the islands. But this has shifted a little bit to the south and to the west today. Now, if that trend were to potentially continue, again, getting down here for our friends in the islands. So it is highly recommended to just keep monitoring this system. I'd say from maybe about Martinique northward, St. Lucia northward. It's something that, even if it doesn't make direct impact, we may still see peripheral impacts with this system, especially with some of that inflow if this is developed as it begins to pull northward. All right, now we're going to jump into our deterministic models. And we have the Euro on the left and the GFS on the right. This represents areas of spin approximately 1 mile above the ocean surface. As we run this forward, you will see right here in the very beginning, that little area of energy there into the northern portions of the Gulf. We have another little disturbance here, our wave, just outside of the Lesser Antilles. And as you can see, it is devoid of quite a bit of convection. We know that it's sitting right here, but it doesn't have much at all to it. I've actually been watching this one and to see if this one is the pre-seed track for Invest 95L. So now we're going to go ahead and run this forward. You will note we'll get this out again to 3 days. The Euro is definitely beginning to consolidate and is a little bit stronger than what we had yesterday. The GFS, of course, has it completely developed and into Jerry at this point. Now, as we continue to run this forward, as you can see, we're going to get this to about day 4 on approach, maybe getting close to Antigua and Barbuda right there, and then pulling northward. Same general thinking with the GFS, but the GFS has a much more organized and powerful system compared to what the Euro does. So if this particular model and track were to verify with that type of intensity, peripheral impacts are guaranteed to be felt in portions of the Leeward Islands there. Now, as I run this forward, we will note that there we go. We're at day 7. We've got the development of that low pressure out here off of the east coast of the United States. Again, becoming more of a nor'easter style low pressure, maybe even gaining some subtropical characteristics in relation with the Gulf Stream current. Now, as I run this forward, we have noticed over the last few days that we were having some significant Central American gyre signals. Now, as we run this out to day 10, as you could see, the GFS did a little bit of kind of like wonkiness with this area of low pressure and brought it back in here. If this were to do that, this may become tropical at that point. It would be out over the Gulf Stream for long enough to where it may be able to gain some tropical or subtropical characteristics. You have a large area of high pressure here that would want to steer this back this way. Unless, and we can show it, I'll go out into La La Land. As you can see, that low pressure tries. All right, there's another developing low pressure there. So if that develops, that shears out the other one. But then again, you can see here at day 10, I am going to erase this and bring it back. You could see with this low pressure here, how this frontal boundary drags back this way. And again, you've got this low pressure here and how this frontal boundary drags back this way. You've got a developing gyre here. The Euro has the developing gyre there. Okay, now that we know what our seeds or our areas of vorticity and spin look like, let's compare that with our humidity. On the top graphics, we have the 500 millibar. This is representative of approximately 18,000 feet above sea level. On the bottom two graphics, we have the 700 millibar level. That's approximately 10,000 feet above sea level. Euro on the left, GFS on the right. Browns are representing our dry air, greens and blues are representing our moist air. So as we run this forward, we're going to get this out to day 3. Now again, this area, Invest 95L, does have some dry air in its region. The Euro has more dry air in the region than the GFS. Now, where will dry air impact this? We don't know yet. That's why there's only a 70% chance of development over the next 7 days. It is not a completely solid forecast saying, yes, we are going to see, guaranteed we're going to see Jerry out here. It's not certain yet by any means. It's likely to happen, but 70% yes, 30% no. So it's still, it's regardless, it's going to require monitoring through this upcoming week. Now, as we get out to day 5, we already knew that both systems or both models had this system developed at this point in time. We should see Jerry. Again, we have some agreements with some of the dry air and some disagreements. One agreement is this large plume of dry air that is going to be infiltrating over the main development region. This area here should kill this wave. That should be the last particular threat. Yes, we have another wave coming off here and another wave coming off here, but you have this massive train of dry air that is just injecting itself into the basin. And it even goes down to the 700 millibar level, as you can see here. We are implying a massive dry out of the main development region through that little area. But the question now becomes, what happens with this frontal boundary here? As you can see, the Euro is a lot further ahead than what the GFS is. Now, this little timing discrepancy could be key for our area down here into the Western Caribbean. So let's go ahead and run this forward. And we're going to take this from day 5 out to day 7. Now, by the time that we get to day 7, again, this timing discrepancy is key because, again, you see that the Euro has this frontal boundary all the way down to here at this point in time, as to where the GFS has this frontal boundary back here. It doesn't sound like a lot, but if you look at the difference, the Euro has to drop a lot of that deep moisture much further south than what the GFS is calling for. This is why the GFS gives us something down here in about 10 days. And on the euro itself, on the deterministic run, we don't see that. So let's run this out to day 10. We'll run this through, and as you can see, the euro really holds that, but then look what happens now. We get another reinforcing shot of some of that dry air. Now, I'm going to be honest with our folks here in the United States. This looks very optimistic, very promising, because if you notice, the frontal boundary is causing the moisture to stream that way. If we come down to the 700 millibar level, it streams that way. If we look at the euro, things are a little linear, not necessarily so angular, but look at the 500 millibar level. Remember that dry air that we were looking at in the very beginning? Look where it's at now. Now, if we could get 1 plus 1 to equal 2 right there, we may, and I use the word may with huge capital letters, we may, if this verifies like this, because this takes us all the way out to the 15th of October. If this were to verify like this, we may be able to get through the season without a hurricane impact to the United States. Yes, I said it. Obviously, we still got a long way to go. But if we can get these frontal boundaries to start really, really digging in real deep and getting that dry air into parts of the Gulf and the Western Caribbean, maybe. So let's check our wind shear. Again, we've got the euro on the left and the GFS on the right. This is representative of the winds between 5,000 and 40,000 feet above sea level. Now, one thing that I would like to point out, right off the very beginning, we have a large shear component here coming through the Caribbean. So, let's go ahead and we're going to run this forward. Again, we're going to do days 3, 5, 7, and 10. So once we get here to day 3, we can see there is a decent amount of shear. Unfortunately, 95L here is riding right along the southern branch of that, as you can see located right here. And it is, there's quite a bit of shear off to its west, and especially to its north. But as we roll this forward, as you could see, maybe a little bit more conducive conditions by the time that we get down to day 5. There is, let's get back to day 5. Let's get my crayon here. So Invest 95L is located right here. We have a little bit of a shear component right here, but that's not a lot. Again, a little bit of a shear component right here, but it's not a lot with this area of 95L here. And notice we're starting to get that deep trough coming through. Now the GFS isn't as coherent with that, but as we begin to run this forward, we're going to take this out to day 7 at this point. Now you could definitely see that trough. And it's this little bubble right here to where 95L is anchored on the top of that. You've got a little bit of upper level ventilation that could potentially occur. And this is the point to where we may definitely see Jerry turn hurricane, potentially major hurricane. Now, I've got to come back on the euro because where's Jerry? Well, I'll show you where Jerry is, and you won't recognize Jerry because Jerry is no longer Jerry. Jerry was an elongated thing right here. Jerry's gone. So, that, maybe. I mean, like, my main focus is for the folks there in the islands. Obviously, Bermuda, don't sleep on this. We're not 100% sure that it's even going to develop yet, but don't sleep on this for sure. Because as you can see here with the GFS, doesn't get it close, but we've had a couple close calls, and obviously with Imelda, we had a direct impact. So as we continue to run this out towards day 10, there's a huge difference because as you could see with the Euro, we don't really have a lot of shear here, but we knew that we had a ton of dry air. If you look here at the GFS, we have a low pressure center here with a frontal boundary dragging back through this way, and then you're trying to get something on this edge ventilated by this jet streak right here. That's what we're looking at. There's your Atlantic forecast, pretty much, in a nutshell. If we compare that with the MJO is forecast to be in our region. I've got a very hard time believing that we would have such an amplification with the GFS into phase one. I think it's going to follow along the ensemble. As you can see, there are a few that bring it out there, but I don't see this major amplification of the Madden-Julian oscillation over our basin. I just don't see that. It doesn't really highlight itself in any of the models that we just looked at. But again, the Global Tropics Hazards Outlook. Now we're going to get a new one on Tuesday, day after tomorrow. My biggest question is going to be, what happens with week 3 right here as it shifts up to week 2? Do we still see this? I've got some reservations. I think, this is just my personal opinion, I think that we're going to see this Western Caribbean signal, and especially the Southern Gulf signal, potentially. I think the Southern Gulf signal may disappear. We may see a little bit of reduction in that signal in the Western Caribbean, might take it back down to 20 to 40 instead of 40 to 60. And I believe that most of your energy is going to be down here in the Eastern Pacific. If not, this area, this highlighted area, may have to shift over to the left some and get more into that region. And not being up here towards the Yucatan, Belize, and Honduras. All right, I'm going to check real quick to see if we've got any questions. I doubt it. Yeah, I don't see any. We don't have... Oh, today's Cash's birthday. Cash, my man, my little man. Happy birthday. Hope you have a great day. And no, you get no hurricane for your birthday this year. And no, you're not allowed. No hurricanes for your birthday, young man. No, absolutely not. All right, jumping out here into the Eastern Pacific, we have dual hurricanes. Octave finally achieved hurricane status. It was questionable. We have been mentioning it for the last couple days, whether it would do it or not. Then we have Priscilla. Priscilla currently has watches on it. Priscilla is located at 16.4 north, 107.1 west. About 485 miles south-southeast of the southern tip of the Baja Peninsula, and 290 miles south-southwest of that place right there. I'm not doing it. No, maximum sustained winds of 75 miles an hour, moving north-northwest at 3 miles an hour, and a minimum central pressure of 986 millibars. We currently have a tropical storm watch in effect for these locations right here in Mexico. I do not speak Spanish, and I am not even going to attempt to butcher those folks' cities. It's just not going to happen. Wind, we could see the tropical storm conditions are possible there within the watch area. We will show the graphic for that. Rainfall. Now, I understand that there is a whole bunch of Mexican states and all this other stuff in this. So we're looking at 2 to 4 inches with the localized amounts of up to 6 inches, and other areas 1 to 3 inches, maybe with a little bit of higher amounts. We have that in a graphical format. So that's how we're going to show that one. And then, of course, tropical cyclone, dual tropical cyclones off the coast. Stay out of the water. Very simple. Looking at the forecast cone, again, as you can see, our tropical storm watches are for the southwestern portions of the mainland right here. Is forecast to be a hurricane, but as you can see, maybe not getting into portions of the Baja, but you would expect the Baja to see watches with that, and potentially warnings from peripheral impacts. And as you can see here, interest in the southern Baja should monitor the progress of Priscilla, and as noted by the National Hurricane Center. If we look at the spaghetti tracks, now we get into some really, really head-scratching, interesting stuff, because we've got it to where, no, we're not looking at direct impacts, direct landfall. But where does that mid-level moisture go? Well, let me let you in on a secret. That way. All into this region here. So, folks in the desert southwest, out here in the southwestern United States, maybe into Texas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Kansas, Colorado, New Mexico, Utah, just keep a watch on this. I have not looked at your local forecast, but I would imagine that you are going to see the influx of some of that remnant tropical moisture from Priscilla. Why do I say that? Well, when we get, I thought the discussion was the very next frame, but no, we have our key messages. So we must read our key messages. This is a requirement. Key message number 1, tropical storm conditions are possible along portions of the coast of southwestern Mexico within the watch area through Monday. Interest in the southern portion of the Baja California Sur should also monitor the progress of Priscilla. Number 2, heavy rainfall associated with Priscilla will impact coastal sections of southwestern Mexico through Monday, which could result in flash flooding, particularly in areas of higher terrain. And number 3, a long-winded way of telling you to keep your carcass out of the water. Stay out of the water. Simple. Rip currents, life-threatening swells. Stay out of the water. Our rainfall forecast, as you can see here, this is from the Weather Prediction Center with our rainfall forecast. We've got 2 to 4 inches, and then that 4 to 6 with potentially higher amounts is up to the left there. We can't see it here on the international forecast. I wish it was a little bit more of a zoomed out picture, but it isn't. And this area here with these brighter greens, just please be careful. Flooded roadways and higher terrain really cause problems. All right, now we've gotten into the discussion. And the one thing that I do have to do is, I got to find it again. Oh, let me find the period. There it is. All right. We're going to read that part of the discussion. Ships' rapid intensification indices are elevated, and if Priscilla can establish a tighter inner forecast, will show more gradual intensification, assuming the shear tempers at a faster rate of deepening, but now has a peak of 90 knots, a little higher than before. This is a bit higher than the HCCA intensity aid, but lower than some of the more aggressive models, HAVS A-B, COAMPS, and the Florida State Super Ensemble. After 72 hours, Priscilla is forecast to move over a sharply cooling sea surface temperature gradient, which should induce rapid weakening by the end of the forecast period. Got too far to the left, got too far to the west, and decided that it wanted to flirt with that 20-degree line, and look what happens. Goodbye. Done. But the big question is, Does it stop at 105? Or does it make major hurricane status? Looking at it on satellite, I'd say it's got a pretty damn good chance of making major hurricane status. Yeah, I can see that core just developing. You could see a major burst of shower and thunderstorm activity. I'll flip this over to the IR and really show you, because I can. This is going to take a second. Government shutdown has caused these websites to be extraordinarily slow, but as you can see here with that last burst, there it comes. You could see it steady, and then boom, there's that second one. If this burst rotates and gets, if these dark clouds, these cooler cloud tops, if that gets wrapped around to the northern side, watch out, because this thing's going to go absolutely bonkers. It might be in the face of shear, but if it closes off that inner core, it's not going to care about that 20 knots worth of shear. It won't. It'll laugh at 20 knots worth of shear and say, watch this. All right, now we are going to discuss Octave real quick. I'm not going to spend much time on this. We're just going to read the particulars on it and go on into the other basin. We are currently at 16.0 north, 123.3 west, maximum sustained winds of 80 miles an hour, moving northeast at 6 miles an hour with a minimum central pressure of 987 millibars. There are no coastal watches or warnings in effect and no hazards affecting land. Priscilla is doing that all by its own. As you can see with the forecast cone, it is forecast to slowly weaken as it continues to move further and further eastward. Looking at the discussion, again, right here at 80, begins to make its eastward turn, slowly weakening and then getting caught up with Priscilla's influence and then getting eaten. I didn't set any of these up. I was reading something else. Looking at the Eastern Pacific, as we could see, some of the Euro guidance may want to bring this up into portions of land, trying to get it there, but if it takes it out too far to the west, it's going to run into those cooler sea surface temperatures, and then you get nothing. You'll get the remnant moisture, but you won't get the big-time tropical impacts. Again, let's jump out here. That's the 18. We will come to the 12. There's 7 days with the GEFS, and if we take it to 10, there could be a little something getting there towards the southern part of the Baja, but that is not the first one. That's this one, with our 60% chance of development over the next 7 days. This is the one that could be what kind of robs CAG from the Western Pacific, or the Western Caribbean, not Western Pacific. Lord have mercy, I'm losing my mind today. Now, we're going to compare the legacy models with our AI model, and as you can see here, some of them do want to potentially bring Priscilla a little bit too close, but look at that one behind it. I know that they bleed into one another, but that one behind it has a much better signal of potentially impacting land. So all eyes on the west coast of Mexico. Getting out here to the Western Pacific and even the Indian Ocean. We had our final on Matmo. This was issued earlier this morning. We can kill that. We have Ha Long. And this one, I am so thankful. Yesterday, we saw a forecast track from the Joint Typhoon Warning Center that was going to bring it something like this and then potentially turn it like that. Now, today, we've got this. This is a lot more optimistic than what we have, what we were looking at yesterday. Still looking at an absolute monster system. 125 knots. That is middle grade Cat 4. And Cat 5 is not out of the question with this one. It's not. And last but not least, we are going to get over here Shakiti or something. I don't remember exactly how to pronounce this. As you can see, it is sitting off the coast of Oman, currently at 55 knots, and then it kind of expected to stay in and around that region, well away from land here, and then eventually dissipate over the waters of the Arabian Sea. All right, I am now going to check back. Oh, well, have a great time, Miss Martha. I hope you do. And you're not missing a lot there, ma'am. You're not. And hi, Betty. How are you this evening there, dear? All right, everybody. That's about all I've got. We will be back live tomorrow here at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central on Facebook and YouTube with the latest information. Now that we've got an invest tag on 95L, we're going to start getting a lot of those models that'll start to populate and come in. So maybe tomorrow we'll pull up Brian Tang's tropical cyclone guidance and be able to see if we can pull some trends out of this and see how the models react, and see if we get any heavy convection to bubble up overnight in that area. Right now there is some convection, not a lot, definitely an area of spin and rotation, but it's just lacking a lot of that convection. So we'll have to wait and see exactly what that does. So until tomorrow night, folks, have a wonderful evening, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow night. We'll discuss all this and see how everything evolves over the next 24 hours. Have a great night, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye for now.